Gold, armor, flamboyance. Hi, I'm Claire and I'm your favourite sword nerd, or second favourite, third favourite. Here to bring you weird content about arms and armor with a queer, feminist, eccentric twist. Why? Because why the heck not? Okay, it's been a year. It's let me have this. Let me give this to you. This just weird thing you weren't expecting on your algorithm of the YouTube. And also, on that note, why not dress yourself entirely in gold? I mean, what's stopping you? Think about that. What is stopping you from dressing yourself entirely in gold? Okay, apart from resources and lack of material. And also, why not take it a step further? Dress yourself entirely in gold armor. You know, it's 2021, we've been through a lot, we deserve this. Because yes, this year, despite these non-jousty times, despite the fact we're no longer in Renaissance Europe for good and bad, but mostly good reasons, gold armor is back, baby, at the Met Gala of all places. And yes, this was ages ago, but I did not have enough reactive power at the time to make a quick rapid response video to it. I admire the people who did, but I just did not have the mind space. Or maybe I have the power to suddenly make the Met Gala trend again in December 2021. You never know. But come back in time with me, if you will, if you want to. To that moment we were all partaking in a well-honoured Met Gala tradition. Viewing the whole affair from the comfort of our homes, from the comfort of our pyjamas, judging all these celebrities wearing these incredibly expensive, well-designed outfits. I mean, well-designed for the most part. And I mean, look, I'm not going to get into the politics of the Met Gala itself. I mean, not necessarily. I like looking at pretty clothes and museums getting some funding out of it. But it's also an extravagant display of privilege and wealth, and that needs to be addressed and criticised. All of these things can coexist. But long story short, if you're turning out at the Met Gala as a guest, either way, you'd better respect the theme. And this year's theme was American fashion.
And just to provide an example of what that theme covered, I'm going to tell you about some of my favourite looks from the evening, like Lupita Nyong'o's denim Versace dress, which really captures the iconic influence of American denim, or Nikki the Jaeger of Nikki Tutorials fame on YouTube, wearing an Edwin Urchon dress and headdress inspired by American trans activist and LGBTQI rights pioneer Marsha P. Johnson. Or finally, Billie Eilish's Oscar de la Renta peach gown, paying tribute to classic Hollywood.
But there's some unspoken rules when it comes to Met Gala outfits and the practice of judging a Met Gala outfit. Either it's incredibly on theme and flawlessly executed, Either it's incredibly on theme and flawlessly executed, or just so on the nose it comes off as tacky. Like in this case, blue, red, white and stars outfit coordinations. Or either it's boringly off theme, like a grey or black suit for the men, or off theme but just so flawlessly executed that nobody can deny that this is a look. And to me, in some senses, when it comes to the theme of American fashion, Lil Nas X outfits belongs to that last category. Off theme but flawlessly executed, though a lot of Met Gala fashion commentary people could disagree with me on that point, and I've seen lots and lots of interpretations that do relate it to American fashion. But let's recap the whole fashion performance that Lil Nas X treated us to a few months back. Several months back, a year ago. Like, at this point, time has lost all meaning. Welcome, future people watching this video. The pandemic in 2021 is a trip. So first off, let's preface that this set of outfits were all custom designed by Donatella Versace.
For a quick recap on Versace from a fashion novice, it is an Italian luxury house which produces both ready-to-wear and haute couture, and the brand is usually known for bright colours and use of print, and is usually associated with luxury and opulence.
So, Lil Nas X arrives on the Met Gala, red carpet in a cape, covered in gold beading, which completely covers him in a long train. Like very royal, regal train. All aboard the royalty fashion train. Anyway, cape is then removed to reveal a full-on gold suit of armour, which was the moment I was looking at my screen and everybody was tagging me and going, Claire, have you seen it? So I was like, yes, I am seeing it right now, I am loving this, it's great, it's a moment, it's fantastic. Yeah, some people are comparing it to C-3PO in Star Wars, but you know what? These people are ignoring the fact that C-3PO is the most iconic and stylish character in all of Star Wars, so there's that. But then that suit of armour is removed to reveal the rapper in his final transformation, a bodysuit studded with crystals and the signature print of House Versace. You know, for when you want to just pop into the grocery store, very casual outfit. So was it on theme? For me, personally, it's my own personal opinion, not technically. But that's something that Lil Nas X himself admits in a sense. He says, I knew I wanted to do armour before we even knew the theme. So he says this in a Vogue article, and he even admits that the gold connection is because 79, which is gold on the periodic table, we love a little nerd moment, is his lucky number. But he also expressed the important symbolism that armour had for him as a shell surrounding him, and what that meant for him in terms of coming out as gay, which he did relatively recently in the public eye. So is it linked to American fashion? Well, like I said, there isn't necessarily a direct link, and even in what Lil Nas X is saying himself, it probably was never really meant to be a direct link in the first place, but I think we can maybe also interpret this from another perspective, like this American vision of what is iconography of power and royalty, this iconography of royalty that is necessarily inherent to American imagery and that is therefore borrowed from European imagery, and not only European art and fashion, but also European arms and armour, which is why we're here. Because it is very much a thing historically. And I found it quite fun and serendipitous because, you know, I'm a museum nerd, that the Met itself actually holds some of the best surviving examples of gilded armour. Like this armour garniture, probably belonging to King Henry VIII of England, dated from 1527. We also have variations on this theme, like this armour garniture of George Clifford, 3rd Earl of Cumberland, dated 1586, which is more of a gold and black situation, which, you know, we like, it's a fashion moment. And even silver and gold if you really want to be fancy and you just couldn't decide between a silver theme or a gold theme for the Christmas tree, so you just went with both, except it's an armour, a suit of armour, like the armour of Henry II, King of France, circa 1555. As the names of these owners suggest, just as much as a lavish decoration and material, these decorated suits of armour would have been destined for royalty or at the very least very high-ranking nobility. This type of armour wouldn't have been really suited for the battlefield at all. More of the focus, more of the stats were going into the decoration rather than the solidity and the functionality of it in battle environments. But they could have been categorized as either decorative armor they could use in ceremonies, you know, like hoity-toity royal occasions, coronations, weddings. Do you wear suit of armors at weddings? I don't know. I'm not royal. At least, no, I'm not royal. Or armor used in a setting that involved both sportsmanship and flamboyance, like a joust. And in fact, to talk about that a little bit more, let's go back to the first armor we mentioned. It's important for a number of reasons, and not just because it's shiny. So shiny. The shiniest. So first, this bad boy is one of the earliest suits of armour to come out of the Greenwich Royal Workshops, which were established by Henry VIII to produce either armour for himself or for members of court, his court, not just any court, by royal decree. Which is, hey, I do decree, I like this guy, so I want to make him some armour, no homo. But second, if we were trying to figure out whether this would have been used for a ceremonial, purely decorative little fashion moment, or for a joust with a little bit more kind of action and protection involved, it has several clues for us. Like a lance rest on a breastplate, which would have provided a practical way for jousters to hold the lance they were wielding during tournaments. But the gauntlets also show different uses for wielding lances or for wielding swords, which would have occurred at these tournaments at different points. This armour is dated as having been created several years after the Field of Cloth and Gold, which sounds like a conference on fancy textiles, but is actually a major summit between Henry VIII and Francis I of France, which also included tournaments and was essentially a massive display of wealth. Our armour, in fact, would have been allegedly made for Henry VIII, but gifted by Henry to the French ambassador François de la Tour d'Auvergne. D'Auvergne. I'm French and I still can't get this. François de la Tour d'Auvergne, the Viscount of Turenne, and it would have been gifted to him, allegedly, during a diplomatic mission to London in 1527. I don't know why I'm bothering to say allegedly, it's not like they're going to come after me for false information. Historians might though. So if this happened, it would have made it a part of diplomatic gifts and negotiations, as well as, frankly, a way of showing off the craftsmanship of the Greenwich workshops themselves. I think we have to consider that at the time it would have been pretty much as important as being offered a jewel or a work of art. And speaking of work of art, because on this channel our segues are flawless, the design of the decorative patterns are attributed to Hans Holbein the Younger. Welcome to the house of Holbein. So he was a Swiss artist who worked at Henry VIII's court at the time and was more known for his portraits, including his portrait of the king. Hans Holbein did the best he could with what he had to work with. So this is a perfect intersection of not only themes surrounding royalty, but also sports, diplomacy, performance, as well as fashion and art. Why am I talking like a BBC presenter? But also science. And it's the best kind of science. Armour science. But also danger science. Got armour science, danger science, and what do you get? You get gold. Gold armour. Gold armour. Because how do you make your historical gold armour, well, all goldeny? I mean, that really is the question we're trying to solve here. Well, first of all, let's break the illusion. These are solid gold pieces of armour. I think gold is probably the worst metal you could pick to make a solid piece of armour out of. I'm not a goldologist. Gemologist? I think gold is probably the worst metal that you could pick to make a solid piece of armour out of, due to gold being so malleable. Not exactly what you want on the battlefield, or in a joust, for that matter, when you're being poked with a lance. If you want all the flash of the gold without compromising on your armour's solidity and integrity, why not go for gilding? Sounds like an advert for Renaissance royals. So what is gilding? I'm so glad you asked, otherwise this video would be over in 3 minutes. So gilding means that you apply gold to another material's surface. In fact, you see it in a lot of paintings from the medieval period, in which gold leaf was carefully applied to enhance a painting. And of course, it continued to be used for picture frames. And can I just say, it is incredibly relaxing and luxurious to watch someone apply gold leaf. I definitely recommend it. But how do you do all of this on armour? I mean, not relaxing, but, gilding. You can't exactly just stick it on. Although that would be quite funny, like little stickers on your armour. It needs to be integrated to the armour, to the surface itself, to the metal surface it's meant to embellish. So without a Renaissance blacksmith available to answer my questions about gilding, because, my necromancy skills aren't that good, and the ethics of that would be questionable, I turned to the properly sourced internet and books. The response is very cool. Fire gilding, which sounds badass. And guess what? It is. Now listen up, this is a tutorial. No, it's not. It really isn't. But fun fact, I was supposed to go on a blacksmith's course before the pandemic, and then the world changed, blah, 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 it's in your history books. And I still have delusions of doing that one day, but in the meantime, most of my activities relating to that are limited to admiring lesbian blacksmiths TikTok. Yes, that is a thing, and it is glorious. But even if I did do blacksmithing, which, I'll get back to you in a few years, the dangerous and literally toxic nature of fire gilding is best hinted at with its other name, Mercury Gilding. So step 1. The fire gilder takes their liquid mercury, but oh no, the other material they want to transfer onto another surface is solid. I mean, I don't know why this is, oh no, it's common sense, but So in our case, this is gold, but it can also be silver, just depending on whether or not you're or a silver or gold kind of person? Let me know in the comments down below. But once you add, in our case, the gold, so that can be gold leaf, to the liquid mercury at room temperature, boom. Well, not literally boom, but you know, science. Boom science. Science boom. And we know amalgams are bad, like when you conflate one person's actions with an entire group or community, but in this case, an amalgam is what we're looking for. And according to several essays and articles, this final result, in terms of mixing gold and liquid mercury, is supposed to have the consistency of butter. Yes, butter. You could literally take this mixture and spread it on your toast, like butter. But you shouldn't, because this is forbidden butter. Forbidden butter. Well, now that you have your amalgam, or forbidden butter, you don't spread it on toast. I really cannot stress this enough. Please do not spread it on your toast. But you do spread it on a metal surface that you want to gild. Apparently this works best with bronze and copper, but iron and steel also work. Now when you're doing this, the mixture is not the colour of gold. Calm down, everything's fine, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. We're getting to it, because we're getting to the exciting part. Fire. You apply fire to the mixture you have just spread onto the surface, and I'm not joking, this is literally the next step. Fire gilding is wild. And the boiling point of mercury is much, much lower than silver or gold. Who knew? Apart from scientists. Which means that when you fire it at a low temperature, the mercury alone will bubble away. Like magic. Except it's science. Science magic. And what's left instead? The silver or gold. Ta-da! It may still look a bit weird and lumpy, which is why you will need to burnish it, which means rubbing on the surface with a smooth, hard tool. It will also need to be polished to shine. But in effect, there you go. You have transferred your silver or gold to your metal surface. Well done. We cannot stress enough how this is not a tutorial. Do not do this at home. We are just pretending to be Renaissance blacksmiths for the fun. But you really shouldn't. For reasons we will explain forthwith. Because when you look at videos, the process looks really, really magical and looks really, really fun. But it is also, obviously, very dangerous. As you can imagine, it's mercury, which is a neurotoxin causing all kinds of serious health issues if it's breathed in. For example, hatters used it from the medieval period onwards to cure the felt used in hats, but in doing so often developed what is called Mad Hatter disease. And yes, if that sounds familiar, the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland is directly inspired by this, this time due to a bad amalgam between the health issues caused by mercury and hatters being perceived in a certain way. And as a note, you know, all joking and science aside, mad is not really a term I want to use for anyone in any context, but I'm using it here in its cultural context in terms of recognizability. It's an interesting but also sad situation that the use of mercury led to this neurological condition that also led to these ableist terms being used in the first place. And the fact that there was this chronic poisoning of hatters throughout centuries definitely also has parallels with art history and the way in which certain colour pigments often caused serious harm, like cadmium used for vibrant reds, oranges and yellows, as well as arsenic that has been used for tinting quite a range of textiles in fashion. So it's both tragic and interesting to consider how something like metal gilding at the intersection of arms and armour, art and fashion, in a sense, may have also led to some chronic poisoning by the gilders involved. Definitely a whole thing around suffering for art, but also really, if we're thinking about it from a class perspective, craftspeople poisoning themselves for the benefit and showing off of the royalty and upper class nobility of the time. Politics are everywhere. So, final thoughts. I think that what's on theme or not at the Met Gala is always debatable. Am I on theme for the Met Gala? I've got some denim, I've got some gold. I can find a sword. Watch out, Grimes. I'm coming to compete with your last entry at the Met Gala. But what I've actually enjoyed the most is seeing a range of museums take advantage of Lil Nas X's moment to educate around the historic armour in their collection, which shows beautiful examples of gilding. But on a cultural level, I think that the armour That moment with the gilded armour, golden armour on the Met Gala red carpet also fed into a beautiful conversation on what we consider being part of the language of armour, royalty and masculinity. From the very start of his music career, but just as much in his fashion sense, Lil Nas X has expressed his queerness and masculinity in new ways that challenge the status quo. In particular, around the context of being a black man in the US, and in an industry and music genre that is still very much straight. Long before norms were imposed on masculine dress, for example to have less bright colours and ornamentation, no makeup or heels, men wore elaborate dresses and textures which in no way conflicted with their identities as men. The homophobia men experience when they want to dress more feminine is directly aligned with the still enduring social discomfort with men dressing in a so-called more feminine way, whatever that means. Despite the fact that this prohibition is, by all accounts, relatively recent. Like, come on, it was the 19th century. That's only a few centuries ago. So we can also see the gilded armour in another light, not just as a sculpture in motion or a flamboyant performance, but also as a weapon to reclaim the past, to queer the present a little bit further, and to allow that queer masculinity to shine a little bit brighter, both figuratively and literally. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Follow me on my social media for more sword content, my podcast on Women with Swords, Bustles and Broadswords, and my webcomic, Girls' School of Knighthood. Stay safe, sword lovers, and see you in another video.